What's going on, guys? MercilessGhostie back again. Back with another type of video today. I did say in previous videos that I was going to dabble into movies. This is not my first attempt at it, but it's my second attempt. I did a little review of Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City when that came out. So you can go check that out on my channel. Along with Resident Evil gameplay that I dropped with it. But this is going to be strictly movies. This is going to be my top 10 Christmas movies list. I feel like some of the earlier movies are going to be a lot of the really classic ones that I feel like a lot of people already know, and that there's not really too much I can add to it or say anything that most of you guys don't already know, so I probably won't go in depth too much on those. But I feel like there are some other movies on this list that can be in discussion, whether it's a Christmas movie or not. I have one Christmas horror movie on this list that I probably will go pretty in depth on because I'm a horror channel. That's what I talk about on this channel for the most part. But it's also one that I feel is an underrated classic, so I'll probably go in depth on that one. But before I get into it, I just want to say I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas with their families. I know we live in crazy times right now. As long as you have a good team of people around you, I think you'll be okay. If you're new, please consider liking and subscribing. Help my channel grow. It's a group effort. Engagement helps bring traffic. You want new people to come chill with us? Then that's what's going to be done. Also, you can follow me on social media at MercilessGhostie on Instagram. Plus, I just made a Facebook page it's called MercilessGhostie Friends and Family. You can check that out. I want to make a whole day on that page where everyone comes post content. Whether you make music, whether you draw pictures, whether you stream games, talk about movies, I want to make a whole day where everyone can just come post their content for everyone to see. I really want to make that page grow, so definitely come check it out. Everywhere else where you can find me will be in the description below. But it's going to be a long list to get into, 10 movies. So let's jump into it. So starting right off the bat with number 10 is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Everyone knows this movie. I think it's pretty much a yearly staple for everybody, so there's not really much I can add to it. Everyone knows about the Griswolds, and they're a really quirky family that has a string of bad luck. And then then their dad gets a bonus and they go on a vacation. I think everyone pretty much knows this movie, so like I said, there's not really much I can add. And a lot of the first few movies are going to be like that. But yeah, it's a Christmas classic. I watch it at least once every year, but some of the other movies on it I have grown to appreciate more on a film level, and that's why they're going to be higher. Coming in at number 9 is going to be How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I'm kind of cheating with this one. This one's kind of a double feature because I always watch the cartoon version and the Jim Carrey version. Cartoon one is only 25 minutes long, but it's a classic. I grew up with it. I think everyone knows the Grinch. I can't really add too much to it, but you all know he hates Christmas because his heart's 3 sizes too small. He doesn't like the Who's and their singing and the pudding and the eating and the presents, so he takes it all. But Christmas still comes. They sing Christmas carols, and Jim Carrey, the Grinch, has a change of heart, and he brings everything back and joins them. That's pretty much the story. I will say, upon rewatch this year, I did not enjoy the Jim Carrey version as much. I feel like there isn't enough story in The Grinch to justify an hour and 47-minute movie. I feel like the girl who plays Cindy Lou Who is a little bit too old for the role, but it's still a classic. I still watch it once every year. Okay, this is where I think more of a discussion can be had, and I can add something too, because I feel like pretty much everyone knows those two movies, but they're classics and they're yearly watches for me. So I'm going to include them, but these are ones that from here on out, I think we can have more of a discussion about if you would replace this with something else, or if this is even a Christmas movie, stuff like that. That's pretty much where this list is gonna go. There's gonna be one movie I go really in depth on because that's what I cover on this channel, and I have a lot to say about it, but we'll get there. Coming in at number 8 is gonna be Bad Santa. This probably won't make a lot of people's top 10 Christmas movies list. It's a really raunchy comedy, but upon rewatching it for the first time in a long time, this year, I really enjoyed it this time. I really think Billy Bob Thornton is great in this movie. So basically, he plays a convict who dresses up as Santa Claus and goes to different locations with his sidekick, Tony Cox, who plays his elf. And basically, they go and pretend to be Santa Claus at these different locations so they can rob it eventually after the holidays. I think the dynamic between those two characters is great. Back and forth, they're constantly bickering. Billy Bob Thornton's character is always drunk and he's always fucking up on the job, always showing up to places drunk. There's not many moments of this in this movie where Billy Bob Thornton isn't drinking something. It's like constant, never not drinking. I do feel like that they took it a little bit too far, but overall it was still great. The couple things that I didn't like about it, I really didn't like the kid. Not so much the acting, but the writing. I feel like there's too many scenes where he's just standing there and just asking Billy Bob Thornton's questions, and then he just kind of just leaves, and it's just like, okay, bye. And I really felt like they could have developed his character a little bit more. And I also feel like everything that happens in the third act feels a bit rushed, and everything just kind of happens boom, boom, boom. I wish they had kind of played it out a little bit more and dragged it out. And then it just kind of ends. And I wish there was a little bit more to it than what we got. But overall, I really enjoyed it this time, and it'll probably be a yearly staple for me now. Coming in at number 7 is going to be Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. This could be debated either way. A lot of people only see this as a Halloween movie, but I think it works as both. I can watch it as a Halloween movie or a Christmas movie and enjoy it the same either way. This is another one of those classics that I feel most people know. So I'm not going to go too in depth with it, but I'll give some brief thoughts. So you got Jack Skellington and the Halloween Town that basically become obsessed with Christmas and study and want to know how Christmas works and have the idea of coming up with their own Christmas, the Halloween version of Christmas to spread. So they set out to have Santa Claus kidnapped. They kidnap Santa. They send him to Oogie Boogie. And then Jack takes over as Santa. And he spreads the Halloween version of Christmas. And all the kids get terrified. The army ends up shooting Jack down. And then Santa Claus has to come back and save the day. And they eventually realized that it was better just to have Halloween and that Jack's the Pumpkin King. But I think it works either or as a Christmas or a Halloween movie, and that's why I'm going to put it here on this list as a Christmas movie. But again, this is one of those that I feel is most people know, so I really don't have too much to add. Coming in at number 6 is Santa Claus is Coming to Town. This is one of those classics that I feel is so old that maybe some of the younger generation and maybe even some from my generation haven't seen because it is so old. But basically you got the town of Summertown, who's under the control of a tyrannical mayor named Burgermeister Meisterburger. Doesn't like toys, doesn't let kids have toys. And young Santa, who's adopted and raised by elves, so that's the same usual story there. He keeps coming to Summertown and brings the kids toys. The town keeps taking them. Eventually it's written into law that the kids can't play with toys, and Santa Claus is basically wanted for arrest. It's not a very long movie, there's not a lot to it. It's just basically a short animated musical. But it's always been one of my favorites, so it's one that I put on every year for sure. Santa eventually befriends a penguin and gets help from a winter warlock who uses his magic. It's definitely an oldie, but definitely one that I like to watch every year for sure. Coming in at number 5, that I feel is not just an underrated Christmas classic, but an underrated Arnold classic, and that is Jingle All the Way. This movie is peak 90s. I'm a 90s boy, so this is a nostalgic comedy ride for me that I always enjoy. So you have Arnold, who's the typical busy father around Christmas time, misses a lot of family time, misses his son's karate classes, and basically he promises his son, like weeks in advance, that he was going to get him a Turbo Man action figure, which he wants, but forgets. So he spends the entire movie chasing after this Turbo Man, which no store carries. That still holds up. That's still relevant and happens today all the time. Along with Sinbad, who plays Byron the Mailman, and those two together on screen have great chemistry. They mess with each other, fighting for this Turbo Man. At one point, a radio station gets blown up because of a homemade plastic device that Byron the mailman was carrying. It's hilarious. So eventually you get to the end, and they fight it out as Turbo Man and his arch enemy Dementor. This is one that I have to watch every year. I love this movie. It's peak 90s. It's great. If you haven't seen this movie, put that cookie down now and go watch Jingle All the Way right now. Okay, the top 4. These are not only some of my favorite Christmas movies of all time, but some of my favorite movies of all time. Each one is a classic for its own reason, one of which is going to be very different from the rest. We'll get to that. But these are the ones that I could watch anytime, throughout the year, still enjoy. But although I do like to save a couple of them for Christmas time just because of the Christmas setting. Coming in at number 4 for me is going to be Lethal Weapon. For those of you who are going to say Lethal Weapon is not a Christmas movie, bullshit, it isn't. This movie opens with Jingle Bells and ends at Christmas dinner. It's a damn Christmas movie. This premise has been done a million times over. The buddy cop movies are a dime a dozen in the action genre. But what really makes this one stand out for me is the impressive performance of Mel Gibson, who plays Martin Riggs. And he struggles with depression after he loses his wife to a car accident. There's scenes in the first act where he feels genuinely unhinged, and you actually feel he may kill himself by the end. He eventually becomes partners with Danny Glover, who plays Roger Murtaugh. They hunt a group of terrorists. One of them is Gary Busey, who just feels like Gary Busey playing Gary Busey. They had this girl Amanda poisoned. They find out it's part of a much bigger smuggling ring by wealthy business guys and mercenaries. You know, typical buddy cop movie stuff. This movie does a really good job though of balancing drama, action, and comedy. That's why it's my favorite buddy cop movie. If you haven't seen Lethal Weapon, go see it. It's a classic. My number 3, the one horror movie on this list. It's directed by someone who has another movie on this list that hasn't been named yet. I just discovered this movie a few years ago. Set in a sorority house. I have a group of sorority girls who keep getting horrifying phone calls. Sound work on these phone calls, even for 1974, absolutely blow your mind. They are amazing. There's one guy uses multiple voices. There's one killer in the house. He's in the house the entire movie. All we know him by is Billy. Not one of my all-time favorite horror movies, at least in 1974. Of course, some parts feel dated. So much of it still holds up, though. The movie opens with a POV shot that feels very Halloween with the breathing and how he kind of creeps into the house and he's kind of watching them down the stairs. Feels very Michael Myers. The main girl, Olivia Hussey, plays Jess Bradford. Great in the movie. He's in a relationship with this guy, Peter. There's a dynamic between these two. Hollywood could take notes from this now. because it's social commentary done right, and it's also social commentary that's still very relevant today. But it's written into the story in a way that doesn't feel forced. It actually adds to the movie. So as the movie goes, the dynamic between these two characters gets uglier and uglier. But they really do a nice job of wrapping it up and ending in a really cool way that I think everybody will love. Some other great actors in it, like John Saxon, who was in Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee and A Nightmare on Elm Street. So Margot Kidder in Amityville Horror, Superman. This is one of those old school type of horror movies. Slow burn, builds tension, doesn't rely on jump scares and blood. It's my type of horror movie. It has become a cult classic to horror fans, but I think it's still relatively unknown general moviegoers. I recommend everyone check this out. And remember, the same director has another movie on this list, Tyre, that is on the very opposite end of the Christmas spectrum. Get to that one soon. If you haven't seen Black Christmas, go check it out. It's an underrated classic. Not only one of my favorite Christmas movies to watch every year now, it's also one of my favorite horror movies of all time now. Coming in at number 2 is going to be Die Hard. Once again, yes, it's a damn Christmas movie. It's a quintessential 80s action movie. It's great action scenes, hilarious one-liners. Everything you're looking for this type of movie is here. So you have Bruce Willis, who plays John McClane, a cop from New York who travels to California to spend Christmas with his family, goes to a Christmas party where his separated wife now works. Soon thereafter, the party is taken over by European terrorists, and it becomes a cat and mouse game through this entire giant office building. Bruce Willis takes a few of the terrorists out. They try to hunt them down, which lead to some great one-liners. There's a couple like one where Bruce Willis is on a walkie-talkie. He's trying to get in touch with the police, trying to get help. And the lady on the end goes, "Sir, this line is for emergencies only." And Bruce Willis replies with, "No shit! Does it sound like I'm trying to order a pizza?" It's hilarious. There's another one where the main terrorist goes, "Do you think you can really mess with us, cowboy?" And Bruce Willis replies with, "Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker." Like another iconic scene where he kills one of the terrorists and puts him in the elevator with a sweater on that says, "Now I have a machine gun, ho ho ho." Some great stuff. There's also some great side characters, like the cop who has a great arc in this movie. He kind of starts off as the bumbling cop. He shows up and kind of can't drive as Bruce Willis throws one of the terrorists out the window at him so he could try and get his attention. But he's kind of the bumbling cop to start out. He's basically on desk duty and like traffic stops and stuff like that because he shot a kid. But he has a great arc, and they really developed that character nicely. There is one character that I don't like, and that is the limo driver. I feel like he's pretty useless in the movie. He doesn't really do much, but sit in the limo the entire movie with headphones that can block out the sound of machine guns and explosions. You know, one of those action movie tropes. I should ask for a pair of those this year. But overall, it's a classic 80s action movie. It is a Christmas movie. If you haven't seen Die Hard, what are you doing? It's one of the best movies of all time. Stop this video right now and go watch it. But of course, my number 1 is A Christmas Story, the other movie from Bob Clark, who directed Black Christmas, which was number 3 on this list. I could argue in some ways that movie's better than this movie, but I have to watch this movie at least once a year on Christmas so it doesn't feel like Christmas to me. This is one of those classics that I feel like mostly everybody knows. It's a pretty simple story, not much to it. You have this kid Ralphie who wants a BB gun for Christmas, and we'll tell it to anybody who will listen. He tries asking his mom, tries asking Santa. He writes report on it for school. Gets told by everybody, no, we can't have one because he'll shoot his eye out. The only person who doesn't tell him is his father, who ends up getting it for him. There's some pretty funny side characters like his brother Randy and the two bullies. Once again, I feel like there's not much I can add to it. It's a classic Christmas movie that I feel like most everyone has seen. But if you haven't seen A Christmas Story, it'll be on for 24 hours starting tonight, like it is every year, going straight through till Christmas. So if you haven't seen it, check it out for sure. It'll be on tonight. But I would love to hear your guys' list. Comment below and let me know your list. Is there a movie I left off that you feel should be on it? Do you feel I rate some movies too high, some movies too low? Comment and let me know. I'd love to hear your list. Last thing I want to say, hope everyone has a great Merry Christmas with their families and a Happy New Year. If you're new, please consider liking and subscribing. This video is a beast to make, but I love doing it. I love movies. I love talking with you guys. Stay tuned. Follow me on social media. At MercilessGhostie on Instagram. Everywhere else will be in the description below. Stay tuned for more content coming soon after the holidays. I'll see you.